Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good evening. Welcome to Senior Exhibition. And with this, what we're going to do today is this is Echoes of Self. So this is the Spring 2025 Senior Exhibition course. So for those of you that are in here, we will present and go through the artist talk presentations. We also have a Zoom board inside the gallery for those that, if there's not enough seating, individuals can engage in the gallery space and also listen to the talk from the gallery. Hopefully everyone in the gallery can hear us. So I'll go ahead and start and introduce myself. My name is Todd Jones. I'm the gallery director here at Meredith College. I manage the Frankie G Weems Gallery and also the Rotunda Gallery down at Johnson Hall. So I also am teaching senior exhibitions. So this is the course that seniors learn all about exhibition design and layout and installing and curating their exhibition for their capstone for their degree. It's been my pleasure to work with these students as they are developing their paths as artists and curating this exhibition with them. So I'll go ahead and read the press release and then turn it over to the artist talks. So the Frankie G. Weems Gallery presents 9 emerging artists for their capstone senior project entitled Echoes of Self. Join Kamar T. August, Elizabeth Rosie Bunch, Paige MacQuin, Niza Menez, Ainsley Rounds, Madison M.J. Russell, Kelsey Smith, Mae VanFleet, and Wanda Whiteside in celebrating their undergraduate journeys in artistic development. Each artist offers a unique portfolio using a wide array of their chosen 2- and 3-dimensional techniques. Graduating artists take an active role in the creation and cultivation of Echoes of Self, reflecting their collaborative voice. This exhibition showcases the diverse portfolio of each artist, unraveling themselves into their artwork, offering a glimpse into the ever-evolving nature of self-discovery. Each artist presents their perspective on the concept of Echoes of Self. They utilize various mediums to explore their experiences, memories, and emotions as they take shape in their artwork. Now, the artists will take questions at the end in the gallery. So that way we can kind of go into the gallery and continue with the reception, enjoy refreshments, and then engage in conversation in there. So first up, I will introduce Kamar T. August to present.
Hello, I'm Kamar T. August. I'm a graphic design major with a minor in studio art. A little bit about me. I was born in Fort Stewart, Georgia, but I grew up around the East Coast as a military kid. I currently live in Millington. Some interests of mine include reading interactive fiction novels, playing video games with my friends and brother, and driving while listening to my favorite songs. So why do I like design? Design to me is conflict resolution, it's creative problem solving, it's thinking made visible, and whether it's through visual identities like logos, type posters, movie posters, etc., it's visual storytelling that conveys information, ideas, and evokes feelings. I didn't realize it then, but I actually first started designing in middle school. I would try really hard at making my Google slide presentations look visually interesting and aesthetically pleasing, because I thought it would compensate for my dry public speaking skills and that it would better express my passion and energy as a person. Here are some examples of old high school presentations. They're really cringy and embarrassing to look at now, but I still enjoy looking at them and just remembering how much fun I had making them. As far as my style goes, I love using strong typography, visual elements, and overall layering and using texture. My favorite thing is type posters, and I love using type, my poetry, illustrations, and my photography and combining all of them. A creative process I learned here at Meredith is this thing called a process book. In my design classes with Professor Zell, a process book is essentially a collection of all of your ideation during a project, and it consists of mind maps, research, mood boards, sketching, and roughs. I don't use this all the time for my own personal creative stuff, but I really appreciated learning this because it'll definitely help me in my future as a designer when I'm designing stuff for clients. I really love mind maps. I go crazy for mind maps. I think they're such a fun way to brainstorm and ideate. As far as creative inspiration goes, I find a lot of really cool and inspirational artists and designers on Pinterest, on Instagram, and I also take inspiration from TV shows, books, and video games I like, and also my own life experiences. This is a trans comic artist on Instagram who I follow, and I greatly admire, at More Comics on Instagram. I find his comics to be very vulnerable and powerful in his use of illustration and poetry. This is a comic I made for a former friend. It's the first comic I ever made. It's very sentimental and vulnerable. I had a lot of fun figuring out the layout of the panels and incorporating my illustrations and poetry. Here are some of my favorite panels. This is a digital illustration / type poster I made for an art ethics class. It expresses my frustration in having to explain my art and stuff. The text reads, "I did it because I liked it. I did that because I liked it over and over again." It's me standing in front of a projector screen. It also expresses the problem I have with having to discern what I do intuitively versus what I do intentionally when I'm making stuff. And it was also the first piece that I ever made that made me realize that I really love using red type over blue. I love the contrast of the two colors. Here are some close-ups. I really loved using, incorporating the texture in my hair and the shadow. And I had a lot of fun hand drawing all of it, including the type in Procreate. This is a project I did with Professor Holloman. We were tasked with replicating the style of an inspiring graphic designer. I chose Makoto Saito. He's this Japanese graphic designer. I really love the way he manipulates type, portrait photography, and graphic elements. I find it really evocative and expressive and lively. I had a lot of fun figuring out how to best replicate his stuff. Is really challenging, and it made me realize things that I love as a designer and artist. This isn't initially what it looked like when I first turned it in. This is a later version that I created, and I'm really proud of it. It's my favorite piece. It's especially cathartic and empowering to me as a trans person. And I feel like overall it's like very representative of the culmination of my growth and experiences here at Meredith as an artist, designer, and as a trans person.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Bunch. A lot of people here know me as Rosie. I'm a studio art major and an art history minor. A little bit about me. I grew up on a small farm in Suffolk, Virginia. I've always had a love for reading and art. I was introduced to art at a young age by my dad, and my mom spent every night reading to me until I fell asleep. So that's how both of those kind of started. It wasn't until late in high school that I decided to pursue art full time, and then I found my way here to Meredith. Some of my inspirations, because of my love of reading, are mythology, romance, fantasy, imagination, and escapism. I often do this through painting, collage, and ceramics, and sometimes a mix between ink and graphite. So some of my first art here where I felt like I was kind of finding my style is what I like to call my ink splatter paintings. I found myself too focused on how the end result was going to look perfect, that I was a little too controlling with the whole process. So with this, I just start splattering ink on a page, and then I draw what I see, and then I add layers of paint and more accents to come up with these. This process led me to use it to create this piece. This is inspired by my love of mythology, and my favorite mythological story is that of Cupid and Psyche. My thesis in art history is on Cupid and Psyche in art. And in my research, in the story, Psyche is pregnant and she's never featured in the art as pregnant. So I created this piece to draw them in my style and how I saw them when I've read the story over the years. This piece is kind of an overarching how I've grown while I'm here. In the bottom is the first ceramics piece I ever did, which was inspired by my fear and fascination of the ocean that started from the pirate stories I heard because I grew up not far from the Outer Banks, which is known for pirates. And then when I took ceramics to this semester, I wanted to capture the same elements that were in my first piece and put them in this, but really follow that beauty and fear that comes with the ocean. So that's why we have a shipwreck and really pretty octopus, if I do say so myself. So next we have a fountain that I did that is inspired by the mythology around the birth of Venus or Aphrodite. If you didn't know, Aphrodite was born from the sea, and she's a patron goddess of the sea, but she's never featured in the ocean. She's always on land. So I wanted to do a piece that was a what if she stayed in the sea and was actually a goddess of the sea, as she is lesser known. Throughout my time here, I have done a lot of Swan Lake art. I grew up listening to Tchaikovsky with my grandfather. I've always loved the story of Swan Lake, and I just kept fun. If I didn't know what to do, I did a swan. And this is like 5 different classes, but it's okay. So finally, in my painting 2 course for my final piece, I went to do something that captured the difference between Odette and Odile. And in the dance of Swan Lake, Odette and Odile perform the same dance, but they do it very differently. Odile does very brash, confident, and harsh movements, but it's so beautiful. And Odette is very fluid and soft and timid in her movements. So I wanted to imitate that in the tools that I used. So for Odile, I used a palette knife because it's kind of hard to control what it does. It's very rough in the end product, as you can see, and very textured. And with a brush, it was very soft and blended, and I felt that that encompassed Odette and her dance. That's all.
Wow, there's so many of you. Hi, everyone. My name is Paige MacQuin. I'm a mixed media studio artist here at Meredith College. I'm originally from a small town located outside of Nashville, North Carolina, but I moved here to pursue my career as a studio artist, and here I am. So inspiration for my work is heavily influenced from nature. I love the textures and the movement you can get by incorporating it into your work. And also my memories and experiences from throughout my life, and also the overall creativity process of experimenting and playing with a variety of mediums. So the first piece I'm going to talk about is one of my favorites. It's a piece I created in my Painting 2 class a few semesters ago. And this is a piece of me, and it's exactly what it's titled. I wanted to create a piece that fully focused on who I was as a person and captured my aesthetics. So I took things from my everyday life, so nature, reading, music, and honestly painting, obviously. And I found ways to play with the textures, and I turned them into something really beautiful, and it's my favorite piece, so definitely take a look at it in the gallery. The next piece is Pieces of Italy. I initially began this piece when I was studying abroad last summer. While abroad, I really couldn't control myself, and I picked up everything I could fit in my pocket. Then my favorite of those collection is little tiles that I found from the shores of Lake Garda, and they were the perfect surface to draw on. And so while I was there, I captured my memories and all of the amazing things that were happening and all these beautiful views. And it was just overall such a beautiful experience, and I'll never forget it. And this piece really serves as like a memory mosaic of my time abroad. So last but not least is Elemental Understanding. And this is an installation piece that I've been working on as a 499 research study this semester. When I began, I wasn't exactly sure where I was going with this independent study. The only thing that I knew was that I wanted it to be based off the 4 elements, so fire, air, water, and earth. And then that led me to dig a little deeper into myself and really think about the things that were bothering me in my life at that time. And for me, that was my faith. And so I started researching, and I found connections in the Bible to the elements of nature. And so I found the connection between them and the life lessons that they held. And so I took those and I wrote them all on the back. Each element has its own related text from the Bible. Here are some process photos from this independent study. I started with a maquette in the top corner. And for those of you who don't know, a maquette is basically a miniature model of what this piece might end up looking like. And it's a good way for artists to experiment and learn how they're going to build this piece. And so that was a good place for me to start when I didn't really have a vision. And I used this to experiment with unraveling the canvas and to play with color. And by now, some of you might be wondering why part of it is in color and why part of it is in black and white. And this is a reason, and it's intentional, because for those of you who don't know, the Bible has the biblical narrative, which is in black and white, and words spoken by God, which are in red or in color. So this is a way for me to add that connection to my piece to the Bible. And because I'm extra sentimental, I also connected this piece to my first years here at Meredith. So this is a wire willow sculpture I did in my 3D class my freshman year, and I used it as a reference for my drawing on my earth banner. And then I also used my Zentangle drawing from Professor Pierce's 2D class for my water drawing. And before I end, I want to thank you all so much for coming. It means so much to all of us. And I also want to thank all of our professors for getting us to this moment. So thank you.
Okay. So hi everyone. My name is Niza and my major is in studio arts, and a little bit about myself is that I am a sculptor and ceramicist. And I was born in Mexico and came to America when I was 9 months and called Charlotte, North Carolina, my home. And I express myself mainly through 3D visual works that focus on complex emotions and just personal experiences that relate to either a mental or physical health. And for me, in this series that I put in the exhibition, it's a way to help myself evolve and to accept myself and create a form of resilience towards myself, because I feel like I can be too hard on myself, so I just want to be able to express that. For my first piece, it's named Nova, and this is my very first mosaics, and I really wanted to go into my own identity or personality. So I focus on things that are me, basically, and or things that I believe. So I went into life, and then my soul and spirit, or just death or passing, and love and passion, or body and self. And for me, this is like a cycle of evolution, because everyone grows, everyone is evolving. And for me, this is just like the beginning stages of just growing up. For my second piece is named Internalization, and this is a 3-piece ceramics. And this focuses on the process of opening yourself up. Especially growing up as an introvert, I'm really bad being an extrovert, especially with public talking. It just makes me so nervous. But I definitely focus on the fear and the uncomfort that it brings to me, and also focusing on how being an artist, like a lot of people may think it's easy, but in reality it's not, because you have to talk, actually. For my second piece is named Ripped, and I'm going mostly in the physical side of things, and mostly through my experience of the medical field, where you go and then you tell a doctor or someone that you're not feeling okay, either physically or mentally, and then you just push aside. And to me, it feels like you're getting your heart ripped apart or just torn, because it's someone that you're supposed to trust and feel comfort with. For my fourth piece, I forgot what number. This is my very first sculpture and mixed media bust. It was one of the most difficult things, really the hugest piece I've ever done, but it was amazing. And I named it the Melomaniac because I have an obsession with music. I have an obsession with music. I just can't stop listening to music. It sounds like I'm saying it's my addiction. But but to me, it's my form of identity. I've always grown up with it in my environment. I just always had that around me. And in some way, I use music to push it into my art and just be able to push myself more because I feel like music just helps a lot with that. For my fifth and last piece is named The Imposter. And it's a ceramics with yarn and it's a duality box. So you can actually open it from this little hat if y'all have seen that yet. And this is the psychological issue of the imposter syndrome. And this is where you doubt yourself or you feel like you don't deserve things. And I feel like it mostly affects people who are in the academic field because they feel like you don't deserve to be here in some way or form. And for me personally, not being from America, it just doesn't help. Because I have this constant state in my head that I don't deserve to be here. But for this piece, this is definitely something that I like am pushing myself away from and just accepting myself and being, it's okay, like it's fine. You have the opportunities now. I'm gonna accept it and it's just the way it is. And I'm gonna keep pushing myself forward, hopefully. Thank you for listening.
Hello, I am Ainsley Rounds. I'm a studio art major, graphic design minor with a concentration in two-dimensional art. I was born and raised in Southern California. I'm the youngest of four, and my parents, who actually flew out to be here tonight, they cultivated a creative household that inspired me to be whatever I wanted to when I grew up. At one point, me and my mom were watching Say Yes to the Dress, and I had so many opinions. I thought I was destined to be a wedding dress designer. And then I wanted to be a wallpaper designer, some really niche things, but eventually I found my knack in drawing and I ran with it. My art is mixed media, but across all mediums, I have an illustrative and sometimes painterly technique. And I have a love for utilitarian art, so sort of merging that fine art with graphic design and making something that's practical in everyday use. And then my current body of work that I've been working on at my time at Meredith has concepts of upbringing, nostalgia, and also perspective. So this first piece I'll show you is called Through the Looking Glass. It's a drawing I made with colored pencil and pen, and its concept goes with perspective. So I tend to take things a little too seriously in stressful situations, which leads to anxiety and panic. But I learned that if I change my perspective, I realize that my viewpoint is distorted and it's distorted by panic, and that's not reality. And so I use these contrasting mediums to emphasize that shift in perspective. And I also use the name Looking Glass to reference how a looking glass reflects the world, but in a backwards manner. This next piece is a series that I titled El Cajon after my hometown. It is based off of the idea of comic books and how you can fit a lot of visual storytelling through just one piece or one panel. And so I conveyed a story of moving away from home, and I wanted to show this idea of going from adolescence and transitioning into adulthood. And so I showed two perspectives. The painting on the left shows a more adolescent perspective, wanting to hold on to the familiarity and comfort of childhood. And then the right painting shows a more adult perspective of wanting to take what I've learned and apply that and grow through it. And it became a very self-reflective piece. I realized that change isn't scary and it can be inspiring even because you can grow through it and there's more opportunities in the future. And this is my most recent piece. It's a pretty large woodblock print that I had just finished. And it was my opportunity to poke fun at myself and my bad luck that I had at the beginning of the semester. And I'm pretty sure I jinxed myself because that bad luck streak has not let up since then. In fact, I had a lot of creative problem-solving opportunities with this. But now that it is resolved and I was successful with it, that hopefully that streak is over. But I was playing with these ideas, so I have a bunch of different motifs flowing throughout it. I was going with that comic book idea, but abstracting it even more and having these like overlaying elements, just trying to get as much information as I can into one work. So I have picking up the wrong side of a penny, spilling salt, some, on the nose things, but it was fun overall. And then lastly, I have what I like to call my intercosmic scarf. It's a weaving that I did on a 4-harness loom, and I did an iteration of a zigzag twill, and then I screen printed some space age illustrations on top. And I really enjoy the process of weaving and fiber arts, and I also love the utilitarian aspect of it. And I look forward to continuing merging fine arts and practical everyday use items together, specifically with fibers, but also in the future with more illustrative 2D things. Thank you so much.
All right. We'll take a drink of water. Talk a lot. All right, I am Madison MJ Russell, and I am a good old studio art major. And I wanted to talk a little bit about myself before going into my artworks. So I currently live in Apex, North Carolina, but as a kid, I have lived in both Europe and Florida as a kid. I had a lot of different experiences there, but I moved to North Carolina when I was around 9 or 10. And I am the only artist in my family. And I've kind of knew I wanted to be an artist and got really interested in art around the age of 8. It was kind of when I started drawing, I started sculpting and making things intentionally rather than, just doing it for fun in school or something like that. And I've had a ton of support from my whole family and all of my friends, and it's just been a really great experience. And I knew I kind of wanted to do a creative major in college. I didn't know what specifically, but after, looking around, I decided to come to Meredith because it's close by and it worked out really great. And I've been loving my classes. And a little bit of my focuses. Right now, it is primarily sculpture. Usually I gravitate towards ceramics, mainly because we have a really great studio here, ceramic studio, and a really great ceramics professor. And we so that's been a lot of fun, and it's really an accessible medium, and it's just a lot of fun to play with. But I also do multimedia and collage pieces, both 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional. And I've also been experimenting with fibers. So in the gallery, you will see weaving, and I've been doing embroidery in my free time as well. And I also kind of with my work, I usually choose things that are either representational or abstract, or not abstract, sorry, figurative. So like things that you can recognize, like an animal or a person or something like that, rather than just colors or shapes or something like that. And some of my themes, the biggest one is nature. You can see that in just about everything I do. It's either plants or animals. I just love the forms that you can find in nature. And I also work a lot with my own personal experiences, as well as human psychology and the human relationship to nature, both the good and the bad. And I also do a lot with imagination or fantasy. And this is my first piece. This is called All These Pent Up Feelings Can't Be Good for Me. And it is a ceramic mosaic. I created it the semester after coming back from a study abroad trip. And the study abroad trip had lots of ups and downs, and I wanted to create an artwork that would allow me to explore, the feeling, the negativity that I was going through, that I was trying to essentially get over. And essentially what I'm expressing through this is the idea of breaking away from anxiety and being free, or getting yourself, slowly free from self-negativity and all these thoughts and these emotions that are harmful to you in the long run. And, through a lot of therapy and a lot of support and self-help, I've gotten to a place where I can say that I'm happy and, those emotions never go away, but it's always a process and it's good to get that first step going. And this is my second piece. It's called Dog Days of Summer. It is a steel rebar and fabric weaving cicada. And this is inspired by summers that I would spend at my grandparents' house. They have this really large plot of land and they have these massive trees. And so that would attract all sorts of wildlife. And one of the things my brother and I would do is we would go out and we would collect cicada husks, the little things that they leave on trees and stuff. And we would collect those, and that was always just a really fun memory. And I wanted to create this because I've always had, ever since that age, I've always really liked insects. I like looking at them. I like, learning about them. And I think there is a type of beauty that insects have that not a lot of people understand. They don't, notice it, or they think that insects are like pests or something like that. So I wanted to show a different view and make this large insect that is like approachable and with the fabric quite literally soft. And also with this piece, I wanted to show some process pictures of my welding. Most of it is covered up with the yarn, so I wanted to show a few pictures of what it looks like before the yarn was attached. The weaving took me very long, or the welding took me a very long time, and it's my first time welding. So it was a lot of learning, and I am just really happy with the results. Sometimes I kind of wish I'd just left it the frame because I just really like the frame, but I have the pictures. So, I think that's good enough. And my final piece that I'll be talking about is my most recent piece. I finished it quite literally a few days ago. It is called Getting Stuck in Your Inner World, and it is a ceramic piece with a acrylic top coat to give it that shine. And it is a discussion of me being an introvert and how I treat my mind as a comfort place, like a safe place. My mind is where I generate all of my creativity. It's where all my ideas come from. But when you're in your mind for so long, it can be very isolating. And you have to figure out how to balance the two, between being social and having friendships, but also giving yourself time to create things and also just be alone with yourself. So this creature is kind of balled up on itself. It's protecting itself, but it's also reaching out. It's, trying to do more things than just sitting alone. And that is kind of just one of what I wanted to express. And I am very happy with this work because like I said, I just finished it and it came out just how I wanted it, honestly. And that is all that I have for you today. So thank you so much.
A lot of people. Hi, my name is Kelsey Smith. I'm a studio art major here at Meredith and a multimedia artist that I work mostly in ceramics, paper, and fibers. Through my work, I use a lot of symbolism, such as the language of flowers, which is a book of flowers that all have symbolic meanings, nature, and imagery from children's books. And I use these to convey themes like mental health, trauma, and childhood memories. And it's important for me to use this symbolism because I really like having a piece that's not expressing the actual concept and giving more of that privacy and letting me be able to express a more personal narrative without showing everyone. But yes. My first piece is Reveal and Accept. It takes inspiration off of the healing properties of flowers. And I thought a lot about how plants and flowers are used in teas and how some of those have healing properties. The aesthetic creates a duality. No, it doesn't. Sorry. Let's see. The theme, to you, this might look like a nice
lovely floral tea set, but to me, it shows me it is themes of generational trauma and being able to heal and grow from those things. My next piece is nostalgia. The inspiration off of this is childhood memories of playing in my mom's garden. The children's books illustrators Beatrix Potter and Jane Brett, and also the language of flowers. Each of these flowers have like a symbolic meaning either to me or just what Google told me. And I mean the language of flowers. And let's see, I wanted to create a piece that was very aesthetic, but had a but the theme contrasted with that, and so it's kind of taking themes of healing from these, like healing from past events and remembering these happy memories that bring me comfort. In 2023, I got to study abroad in Italy. Some man just started putting birds on me, but I didn't, yeah. And while I was here, one of the first places we went to was Anghiari, where I got a lot of inspiration from the city and just the very lush gardens that were around in each of the each of the houses. And while I was there, I created this piece, Go Smell the Roses. It took forever, and it looks into themes of disconnecting from the busyness of life and being able to just look at the world around you and experience things. My last piece, Forum Nexu, or Floral Connection, was my $4.99 piece for exploration into weaving. And I did a lot of research into how art therapy connects with the interplays between art and, between art and mental health, and how my work connects to that. Art therapy is a cornerstone to my research and highlights the self-discovery, emotional exploration, and personal growth within that. But to me, this really encapsulates the healing and the process of me being at Meredith and being able to express myself through these works, and yeah, my journey through that. And thank you.
Nice you have though.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Mae VanFleet. I am a studio art major here at Meredith with an art history minor. I'm also a multimedia artist. So to start, I want to share a little bit about myself. I know it's cute. I was born and raised in North Carolina, and I grew up in a very creative environment that shaped my deep appreciation for the arts. And even as a child, I saw art as both a creative outlet and a means of self-expression, as we can see here. And as me as a toddler, I was already exploring themes of abstraction with watercolor and even dabble a little bit in face paint with my little red mustache. Before diving into the works I have in the gallery, I wanted to discuss some of the key themes and stylistic choices that define my art. So one of my inspirations is mythology, and I don't necessarily mean mythology in the sense of Greek gods and goddesses, more so the way that humans across all cultures create stories of mythical figures to help try and articulate the world around them and ground themselves. Another inspiration of mine is nature. I am deeply influenced by its textures, its forms, and its movement, which I'm also like to work between realism and abstraction. It keeps my work fresh and helps that organic nature that I'm trying to emulate
with nature. I am also a process-driven artist. So I do start with sketches and concepts like other artists, but I don't let my work hinge too heavily on one set plan. I prefer working intuitively, allowing my work to guide me and the materials to guide me rather than trying to strong arm it into what I would like it to be. And this adaptability and the nature of creating has helped me grow as an artist and take challenges as they come, because there always will be challenges. This is my first work that I have in the show. It's called Mirror Mask. This painting is made with acrylic ink paints and was inspired by one of my favorite films growing up of the same name. It represents the type of work I was creating when I first came to Meredith after I transferred from WCU. Back then, I primarily saw myself as a 2D artist, and I focused in painting and drawing. But now, standing here with only a few weeks till I graduate, I realize how much I've grown. I've expanded into both 2D and 3D, especially with works best shown in the round. And my time at Meredith has pushed my boundaries, brought me new media, new expertise, and helped me find new ways to express myself. This is my vessel series. It's a ceramic coil-built vessel that I made in ceramics. This is my second project in that class. And this is how I started embracing ambiguity in my work. I didn't realize how much I would love ceramics until I saw these come out of the kiln, and then I realized, oh, this is going to be a thing for me. I found a process that I fell in love with and still love, and probably will only find more love for. I intentionally left the title a little bit open-ended, as I wanted to allow viewers to bring their own interpretations to this piece. The most rewarding aspect of being an artist to me is fostering a relationship between artist and viewer. I love having people comment on my work, having like a connection that way. And I've gotten quite a few interpretations of this work, ranging from deteriorating metal to decaying forms, dancing figures, and even pants, which I found pretty interesting, pretty amusing. This is Ebb and Flow. This is a soapstone sculpture that I created last semester. It is heavily influenced by nature. I wanted to visualize how water shapes stone over time while drawing from my own Irish ancestry and its connections to Neolithic artwork. This was one of my most challenging pieces. I had never worked with stone before, so it was quite a learning curve. And at one point, the sculpture actually cracked in half. Yeah. For a brief moment, I panicked, and I also had a minor breakdown, expected. But I was able to repair it using epoxy and some stone dust that I had collected just in case, and thank goodness I did. This project, despite the stress, was incredibly rewarding and has inspired me to take on another stone in my independent study this semester. And it is even harder than this one, but hopefully it doesn't crack. And then this is Arc and Thread. This is my last work in the gallery. This is a welded and woven sculpture that pushed me outside my comfort zone in a completely different way. Prior to this, I had very little experience with weaving and absolutely no experience in welding. So I don't particularly see myself becoming a welder after this project, but I felt reaffirmed in my passion and my choice to become an artist. I felt reinvigorated in a way. And learning and taking what I've learned from Meredith is something I plan to continue throughout my career as an artist, constantly exploring, experimenting, and growing. At my time at Meredith and my experience at Gaddy Hamrick in particular have only deepened my love for art. Being surrounded by such a creative and supportive community has encouraged me to challenge myself and expand my artistic practices in ways I've never expected. Looking ahead, I plan to continue learning, experimenting, and pushing my creative limits. Who knows, maybe next, glass blowing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Wanda Whiteside, McFarlane, but that was too much. Wanda Whiteside had a better ring to it. I'm originally from New York. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, and I moved here to North Carolina in 1995. I'm a widow. I have 4 adult children and 4 rambunctious grandsons, and a dog named Polka Dot. This is circa 2001, but I still see them like that. So the beginning. I learned to crochet from my mom in the 1970s. And later on, I learned the complementary art of knitting. I began with making clothes for Barbie, 2 dresses naturally, and hats for the bears or whatever. And it progressed on to things better: hats, scarves, socks, sweaters, blankets. But I returned to dolls and bears. They always loved what I made. I'm a psychology major and studio art minor and French minor as well. There was a gap. I started in Meredith in 2001 and full-time 2008. And then there was a gap and I came back in 2023. And I looked at the body of work that I've composed here at the Gaddy Hamreth Art Center, and there was a lot of teapots and cups and mugs and stuff. And I was like, what's going on here? But I do love a good cup of tea. So naturally, I've got some tea in there. So last year, I discovered quilting and I loved it. And I did some pairs, some Anjou pairs. And I just love this quilting process. It's quick, knitting and crochet, it takes time, whatever, but you could put your foot on the pedal of that machine and just go. So this is cotton, wool, embroidery floss, and a little bit of metal. I love polka dots as well. So in going with that thread of the pairs last year, I didn't want any type of pair to feel left out. So I did some Bosch pairs. So these pairs, I used some hand-dyed linen. Professor Howard did a workshop last summer, and I fell in a rabbit hole. So this is another quiltlet, and I use cotton, wool, embroidery floss, and a slip of organza. What's a quilt without a little bit of organza? Also with the workshop, and while I was in that rabbit hole, there was natural printing, and we gathered up some leaves, some students and myself, some other students and myself, and we gathered up the leaves, and I went home and I mortared some linen, and I've got a little process up there, and I placed the leaves on the linen and then wrapped them up and steamed it for 2 hours and took them out, let them sit overnight, and I unwrapped them. And there was this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful purples and soft olive greens. And I just absolutely loved it. So it made me think of cottages, how you would sit, nice open field, and you've got the Count of Monte Cristo and you're reading it again for the 20th time. And that's what came to me. So thank you so much to the faculty here on the many, many years that I've spent here at Meredith. It's taken a lot of patience. It's easy to instruct someone that knows the ropes and the processes and the concepts, but it's a lot for someone that may not know all of the concepts. And I appreciate each and every one that's taken the time and patience to help me. And thanks to everyone that's come out today.